One tranquil afternoon, on the outskirts of a dense forest by the Willow Creek, a young fawn found itself separated from its family. The little creature, named Speckle by those who would later know her, roamed aimlessly, searching for its mother. Its slender legs trembled, and its wide, anxious eyes darted about, reflecting a quiet panic. A soft, plaintive bleat escaped its tiny mouth, carried by a gentle wind that rippled across the creek's surface. Suddenly, Speckle stumbled, slipping into the swift, churning waters of the creek. The icy, murky current yanked the fawn away from the bank in an instant. It thrashed desperately, its fragile legs powerless against the swirling eddies. Eyes wide with terror, mouth agape, it cried out, a sharp, desperate sound that echoed through the breeze and over the restless waves. The water swallowed Speckle, then spat her back up as if toying with her fading hope. No sign of her mother appeared, only the relentless, threatening rush of the creek surrounding her. Fear drove Speckle to kick wildly, her hooves striking the muddy water that pressed against her small frame. Her belly swelled with swallowed water, her ears quivered from cold and dread, and each breath came as a choking gasp amid overwhelming terror. Nearly spent, the fawn mustered one final, faint call for help, a subconscious plea. A massive wave rolled through, spinning her tiny body in a dizzying whirl, dragging her near a fallen branch. Yet no rescue came, and Speckle seemed on the verge of sinking for good along the winding Willow Creek. Meanwhile, Ethan Carter drove his open-top Jeep along a quiet road near the creek, accompanied by his loyal dog, Ranger. A faint, distressed cry pierced the air, rising above the water's roar. Ethan slammed on the brakes, brow furrowed, scanning the surroundings for the source of the odd sound. Ranger, a sturdy golden retriever, lifted his head, ears pricked, and let out a low, rumbling growl, sensing something amiss. Ethan leapt from the vehicle and dashed toward the creek's edge, where the water twisted in muddy swirls. "Is anyone there?" he shouted, his voice loud and urgent, but only the creek's rush replied. Ranger barked sharply, then bolted forward, his instincts kicking in. As Ethan raced along the bank, he spotted a tiny form bobbing in the stream's center. "Good heavens, it's a fawn!" he exclaimed, his heart racing with worry. Time for thought vanished, his gaze locked on the struggling creature. Ranger, undaunted, plunged into the murky water, paddling swiftly toward Speckle. The dog's powerful strokes sent splashes flying, his eyes fixed with fierce determination. The fawn flailed on, unaware salvation neared. Ranger closed the gap, carefully stretching his neck to grasp Speckle's scruff as gently as he could. Startled, the fawn's legs tucked in, mistaking the grip for a predator's bite, but soon it sensed safety. No claws, no teeth, just a steady hold. Ranger turned, battling the current upstream, every move precise and strong. He kept Speckle's head above water, preventing her from choking. Ethan knelt at the bank's edge, arms outstretched, ready to receive them. As they neared, Ranger swam closer, just a few yards from safety. Ethan swiftly lifted the fawn from Ranger's jaws, placing her gently on the damp ground. Speckle shivered, water dripping from her ears and sides. Ethan shed his jacket, wrapping it around the cold, trembling body. Ranger stood by, tongue lolling, panting, but his gaze never left the fawn. "It's okay, little one. We got you just in time," Ethan murmured, his voice soft and reassuring. He lifted Speckle, placing her in the back of his red Jeep, then grabbed a towel from the trunk. Part by part, he dried her sodden fur, wiping away the chill. Ranger hopped into the front seat, twisting around to watch, as if ensuring his new charge was safe. Speckle's breathing steadied, calmed by the warmth and gentle care. Ethan started the engine, turning the Jeep toward home, his mind set on nursing the fawn back to health. Ethan's modest cabin sat nestled atop a lush rolling hill near the forest, a cozy retreat surrounded by swaying grasses. Inside, he spread a thick warm towel near the fireplace in the living room, laying Speckle down to rest. Ranger settled beside her, eyes vigilant as if guarding his fragile companion. Ethan warmed some milk, feeding it to Speckle from a bottle, his hand gently stroking her forehead. The fawn gazed up, her eyes softening, trust growing with each tender touch. The fire crackled, casting a golden glow over the trio, and the cabin filled with a quiet sense of peace. By the next day, Speckle found her strength, taking tentative steps in the backyard. Ethan dubbed her Speckle for the delicate white flecks dotting her back. She trailed Ranger curiously, exploring the yard, sniffing at flowers and twigs. Ranger, patient and kind, showed her how to nose the earth, paw at the ground, and tilt her ears to the chirping of birds overhead. Each morning, Ethan led them on a stroll through a nearby meadow, a wide open space where the townsfolk grinned at the sight of Ranger and Speckle bounding through the grass. On cooler afternoons, Speckle nestled into Ethan's arms, seeking warmth, her small body relaxing against him. The three formed an unusual but seamless family. Ranger no longer growled or scanned the horizon warily. Instead, he stayed close to Speckle, a protective big brother. Ethan watched their bond grow, a smile tugging at his lips, though he knew deep down their time together couldn't last forever. After 2 weeks, he realized Speckle needed to find her true home, her mother, and the wildlife she was meant for. Ethan unfolded a map of the Willow Creek area, marking spots where deer often roamed. One bright morning, he loaded Speckle and Ranger into the Jeep, driving back to the creek's edge. Speckle sat quietly, her ears twitching as if sensing something familiar in the air. They arrived, and Ethan shut off the engine, opening the door for Speckle to step out. Ranger sniffed about, darting through the grass, while Ethan searched the forest edge for signs of deer, tracks, broken twigs, anything. Then, from a distance, a graceful doe stood poised at the forest border, unmoving, her round eyes brimming with quiet hope. Speckle halted, still for a heartbeat, then bounded forward, stretching her legs in a joyful sprint. Ethan held his breath, watching, while Ranger sat steady, eyes tracking Speckle's path. The fawn paused, then nuzzled her head against the doe's side. The mother deer bent down, licking Speckle's head, a tender tremble in her frame as if to say, "You're mine." Ethan gazed at the reunion, tears welling in his eyes, his chest tight with joy. Ranger let out a soft, low bark, a gentle farewell. Ethan sighed, a smile breaking through, and nodded. "We did right, Ranger," he said quietly. Speckle turned, her eyes meeting Ethan and Ranger's one last time, shining with gratitude and a hint of wistfulness. Ethan waved, his voice warm. "Go be a wild deer, little one." The doe guided Speckle into the forest, their shapes fading amid the thick trees and dappled sunlight. Ethan and Ranger climbed back into the Jeep, the creek glinting peacefully beside them. A chapter closed, woven with compassion, hope, and a bond that knew no bounds. They drove home, the light of the day warming their path, a quiet contentment settling in. Dear friend, thank you for journeying through this tale. Please consider liking and subscribing to support more stories like this.